CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest.
Hey everybody, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. I am Justin, as always. Still really don't have a nickname for the series since my character
Billy.
has departed. I can't still be Gilly though if he's not even around.
You can be the screaming woman in this chapter.
There we go. I was thinking you would do that one.
Oh. Fine. I'll
But
try.
I mean, I guess I can try my hat at different gender's voice.
You could be the character formerly known as Gilly, instead of the artist formerly known as Prince.
There we go. That's my nickname. The character formerly known as Gilly. There we go. That is not okay. Very long-winded nickname.
Perfect. Love it.
Oh! I see you're really embracing the screaming woman there. So
I am.
Oh, yeah. She didn't have a name during that point, so I'm just like, well, what do I call her? I was gonna say hysterical woman, but I'm like, that's maybe a little misogynistic a little bit, based on the where the word hysteria comes from or stems from. So I just said screaming woman.
Where does that come from?
Hysteria? It stems from hysterectomy.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah, so like back in, when women didn't have rights, a lot of doctors and medical professionals thought that what I'm imagining is like postpartum depression, or basically if it was deemed by the husband that the wife was crazy or hysterical, what is that? Uterus would be removed. Hysterectomy would be performed because they were hysterical.
What?
Yeah.
Do y'all know what? This is so off topic. Do y'all know how like the chainsaw was created? Like what it was originally created for?
What the fuck?
Yeah,
I would imagine it was created to cut logs, but
no.
Doesn't it have something to do with birth?
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess they didn't do C-sections, so they had this crank. It wasn't like a saw, like it was like a manual saw. It still kind of looked like saws we see, I think, today. But if a woman was having issues like pushing the baby out, they would take the saw and cut her pelvis bones to widen it out so the baby could come through. And they use a saw for that.
That's gnarly. I didn't hear that. I have a story to share too. Again, it's going to be random. when my wife and I were dating, we went out to the bars downtown Mankato, Justin, and I don't remember where we were at. I imagine it was probably like Red Rocks or outside the underground. And girl walked by who was, drunk, talking to another girl, and she's like, I'm going to call you a uterus because it's the most disgusting thing I can think of right now. Like, yeah, exactly. Your look, HC, that was kind of the look we had.
Like,
And we're just
why
like,
are
wow.
uteruses just the most disgusting? There are way more disgusting things than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they even hang outside the body or anything.
Yeah, like
I mean, penises look like your drunk friend passing out in the car or like falling out of the car when you open the door for them.
I just heard the words. That's all. And me and my wife looked at each other and were like, I guess it's that kind of night.
yeah, okay.
Hey, so if a dinosaur and a human had a race, how would you know that the human would win?
If a dinosaur and a human had a race, how would you know?
Humans are alive still.
Yeah, that's the joke. Dinosaurs are dead. Okay, well, cool. This has been a very interesting introduction. Hi, formerly known as Gilly. This is
Dren, Derek.
And I am the screaming woman.
You are the screaming woman. You know, the little things matter.
It's the little things.
Right.
Like your friend falling out of a car.
Right, yes. Drunk friend. Yes.
I don't know how we top all this conversation.
I don't know. Yeah, I think this is probably the breadwinner of this episode. But
It says here, hysteria is derived from the Greek word hystera, which means uterus. So hystera is a Greek word, and hysteria is derived from that. That's really funny.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It may not be
being
like
hysterical.
100%.
That seems funny.
Yeah. I'm probably not 100% on all those details, but that's
Hey, you're on the right track at least.
my recollection of.
I mean, that still sounds the same. I mean, it means uterus, and they call people hysterical using a word that comes from the Greek word that means uterus. So clearly it has a female connotation to it.
Right. Yes. So bringing the conversation back around, just trying to avoid, I don't know, being not politically correct, I guess. I don't know.
She was very hysterical,
Yeah.
but she had a reason to be. Before we get started in today's episode, we'd like to take a moment to thank and recognize Silverstone Books. Check out their website at silverstonebooks.com, where they have a large selection of fantasy, sci-fi, and horror books with the option of many signed copies at a very reasonable price. The store carries a large number of indie authors, so help us help them in supporting self-published authors. Also, they've been gracious enough to give us a promo code for 10% off your next order. Just use the code DJQuest at checkout. So check out their site and pick up a book and save a little cash while supporting authors like me, who is not on their website. So maybe not actually. Not helping me. Help them.
It is direct competition to you.
Well, I'm trying to get on Ingram Spark so I can go through them because I want to do hardbacks, not the collectors, but just hardbacks because I don't have those of my book. So I was thinking of contacting Silverstone so they could do exclusive hardbacks of my book. So maybe that could help them get some sales for people who want hardbacks.
Yeah.
Thought that might be a cool idea.
I think it's
And
good.
I was thinking of doing that for them and then for Broken Binding. So on both sides of the pond can have my hardbacks. Okay, let's see if I can get through the patrons. If y'all want me to do the patrons too, I'll do it.
Let her rip.
Go for it.
Patrons, hear ye! In order of subscription, Jan, the picker of pies, Luciana Etrigan, Ryan, the topological, Damien, the rock of faces, Nate, fiddle me this, Shield Anvil Dylan, Quartermaster, Master Sergeant, Lieutenant Parker, and David Mullaney. Thank you for supporting us on Patreon.
Nicely done. Thank you.
Yay! I feel like a
People might like
newscaster.
hearing another voice besides us doing that. So
I felt like a newscaster saying all that. I was like, oh, they're going to hate me. I'm not doing this right.
Nah, I think they're fine.
Yay.
They'll be okay. All right. Well, chapter 13 here is Whispers and Screams. And I like what you did with the title here, but we'll come back around to that.
And it is not misspelled. Everyone messages me telling me that I misspelled Wispers. I did not.
No,
Okay.
I figured it was intentional.
Yes.
Based on
It is. I've had people message me about that.
Well, oh well. Chapter 13's epigraph. I bring you my worries, my troubles, my woes, and beg thee to cast them anew. The love of the mother, graceful and free, please grant peace upon my soul, and shall I give to thee my undying affection, my life, my love. Prayer to Karina, how do you say that?
Karina.
Goddess of the Six. The wind and rain slowly faded as Near and the others crossed the border into Lynn. She had given up asking Cloud questions as he refused to answer them. In her suspicions, she kept him close. If he was going to enter her country, she was going to make sure he didn't do anything foolish. They slowly made their way further from the marsh and deeper into the foothills of the Everett Mountains. The mountains were a welcome sight after a long journey through the wetlands of Leland. Near's attention moved from admiring the surrounding landscape to looking at the dud named Lork. Lork initiates conversation, and the pair spend some time talking about the differences between where they are now and Vleland. This leads them into a different conversation, and about curses, yes, and the greatest bard that ever did live. Up ahead, Cloud hissed for them to shut up, and then crouched forward and reached for his spear. The sound of a whimpering doe could be heard where Cloud had disappeared into some shrubbery. Near trudged forward and peered through the shrubbery. She saw Cloud next to an injured doe. Cloud whispered to the animal before drawing his dagger and closing his eyes. He went for the quick kill. Near came to Cloud's side and asked if the Eve were speaking to the doe. If the Eve was speaking to the doe. Cloud, whilst field dressing the deer, began to explain that he was, and he was doing it out of respect, as the creature was alive but innocent. He shows honor to the doe's sacrifice. Near turned to gaze at the deer and realized how unaffected she was by its death.
What did you say to it?
I'm not even going to begin to say that word. So, in your best Cloud voice, what...
Oh, Lord, I can't do that in a Cloud voice. Dretal Elon Mirin.
It is our wish for peace and comfort as they depart from the living.
Where do they go? The souls, I mean.
Everything is made of energy, and when it dies, it is returned to the land of the air. Just then, a soft breeze swept past, and Near found herself admiring his willingness to share what had become so dangerous and secretive in the human territories. Faith in anything but the Order and the Circle of Six was punishable by imprisonment and death. Near was surprised as to how quickly Cloud had separated the meat from such a large animal. Cloud tells her that she could start a fire, or that she should start a fire. His voice was interrupted by a sudden, horrified scream that came from the distance. Near unsheathed her sword and watched her surroundings for any movement.
What was that?
He inched next to Near, his dagger shaking in his hand. A woman screamed. He flinched and nearly dropped his dagger. The shrill of the woman was pleading for help, deep in the woods. Near stepped forward, waiting for something more, a patter of footsteps, a rustling of twigs, anything. But there was only silence. With a deep breath, she gripped her sword and darted into the woods. Lork could be heard asking her to stay, but his voice trailed off as the snapping of twigs and crunching of leaves were the only things that Near heard as she ran towards the screams. She eventually came to a shallow pathway and stopped.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Near, what's gotten into you?
You didn't hear her?
We can't go fighting everyone's battles, Near. You've got to use that head of yours.
I won't let her die.
Ooh, it could be a trap. They could be with the Order or the God's damned elves.
The thought crossed her mind and wondered if the writings of the fisherman had been true, and if the elves were truly to blame for the massacre of his family. They could be with Cloud. As if the thought called him forward, he appeared on the path. She stepped forward, regretting her decision to run into the woods and potentially into a trap. If Cloud was the other elves, surely he wouldn't have traveled this far for ill intentions. He wouldn't take them into human country where Eve are forbidden. She wouldn't believe it and told herself that she could trust him. A sound startled her from her thoughts, and she lifted her sword and carefully stepped forward to the edge of the path. A blood-curdling shriek came from the north, and then Nier followed the harrowing sound. She was sure she could fight her way out from a trap. Her magic was strong enough to save them. Night fell over the foothills, and Nier passed by several cabins, but not a soul walked along the homes in this abandoned village. As Nier explored around, a door suddenly burst open. The woman warns Nier not to step closer, and then spat on the ground. She tells them that if they want help, to find it elsewhere, as this is no place for the likes of him. She pointed at Cloud. Nier started to speak when she was interrupted by the sound of rustling and whimpered cries. Chills ran across her arm, as it wasn't a woman crying for help, but the whimpered cry of the doe Cloud hunted. The animal was carved to pieces, yet its voice echoed through the air like a whisper in the wind.
What's happening?
It's a whisper.
What? Whispers are creatures of darkness. They aren't real.
Nier forced herself to try and remain calm. Creatures of darkness were known throughout Leyroth as vicious, twisted creatures full of dark energy and pain. Until recently, she always believed creatures of darkness to be tales of fiction. We need to leave. We can take residence in one of these abandoned homes.
You called it here. You brought this plague upon us. No, we thought someone was in trouble. It took them all. One damned creature got everyone. My Mirabella was ripped to pieces. It mimics her screams at night. My friends and I came to help you. We're with...
The order! We got this paleface in the woods last night. Been traveling to the border to trade them off for rations and coin. Poster said they're going for 50 silver a head.
The woman sneered with uncertainty, and her lip twitched.
I don't want the likes of him around here. We've done lost enough.
Please, miss. He won't hurt nobody. We even got him to fetch us some meat for dinner. You're welcome to supper, should you allow us to stay for the night.
Quick footsteps pattered from inside the home before a young woman stepped onto the porch. She asked her mother what was going on. Her mother told her to get back inside. As Rose eyed the strangers, she recognized one of them. Rose raced down the steps. Nier quickly turned to hide her eyes. Rose fixed her attention on Lork and told her mother that this was Ebard of Reese. He said he was pleased to meet her and explained that they heard screaming and came as fast as they could. Rose turned away with sorrow and told the tale of tragedy. Rose turned to her mother and said, "We can't let them stay out here as they'll die." Rose's mother's eyes narrowed, and Lork quickly swung Rose back around. He explains his capture by the Blades and pleads that if they're caught out here by the Wispers, that they'll all be good and dead. Lork glances at Cloud and reassures Rose that he'll be no trouble. Lork's charm must have worked, as Rose was heard telling them to get inside.
Watch yourself, Ebed, or you'll be the husband of a coal miner.
I could live with that.
He said with a devilish grin as he was led by the hand into the cabin. Once inside, Rose prepared their stay and was busy with the tasks of doing so. Nier took the moment to ask Lork a question.
We're with the Order?
They're devout. I saw the pendants around their necks, the emblem of Karina.
Good eye. Guess I should go be with Cloud. If we leave him alone too long, they'll get suspicious.
Keep your eyes covered. If they recognize you, we're done for.
Nier, without a response, walked across the room to the table where Rose's mother removed the clutter and instructed Cloud to lay the bloody sack. Nier huffed at the microaggression delivered towards Cloud from Rose's mother. Rose asked who Nier was. Nier lied and said her name was Marie.
I'm Lisbeth. That's my girl, Rose. She's all I've got left. The child came and set loose Wispers in the woods. My Mirabella was taken, sliced up like a pig. The Brotherhood promised peace from the elves and peace from the resistance with the Order. But look where it's got us. My family, my home. It's all gone because of that blasted demon.
She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She asked Near if she truly was with the Order. Near assured Lisbeth that they were from the Order.
How do you know it was the child? Surely a sorcerer doesn't have the ability to call upon creatures of darkness. How else? It's a prophecy, written in the scrolls and passed through the ages by the wicked Nazult.
Near turned as Rose gasped from across the room, her hands over her lips, staring at her mother.
Sorry, Rosie. I know we shouldn't be speaking of the wicked one, but times being what they are, there's no need in dancing around the truth. The truth? The end is coming. Until we capture that blasted witch, we'll all be suffering.
Near was silent as Lisbeth moved across the kitchen and filled a pot with chopped vegetables and carved meat.
Well, divines be good. You're lucky to have found yourselves here before the Wispers got to you. I'm going to be keeping an eye on him. He isn't going nowhere near my girl, you hear me? Of course. We shouldn't have any trouble, though. He's proven useful so far. Seems they make better slaves than they do enemies.
Near felt a wave of guilt as the vile, hateful words spilled from her lips. She knew she needed to keep favor with Lisbeth if they were to survive for the night, though doing so filled her with irrevocable shame and disgust. After Lisbeth had explained their sleeping arrangements, she strode away to gather logs. Thankful to be out of the watchful eye of Lisbeth, Near moved to Cloud's side and asked if his people were really here. Cloud's eyes tightened and said that he didn't know.
If they are, then war is inevitable.
My people don't want war with your kind. If they are here, then they're following a man known as Nasir. He's a ruthless leader of Cleatil clan, and he's the reason Azazel is lying on her deathbed.
Why did he come here?
I don't know. You must believe me. The Nasir and Cleatil have always despised humanity. If the Eve have invaded, I know they are with him, but I don't know their plans. I can only assume that they are here to reclaim their homeland.
Why? We've been at peace for centuries.
Oh, forcing our people into the forest and then hunting us for sport is not peace. Lanathus. I don't fault the Cleatil for hating your kind, but neither do I condone the killing of the innocent. Near gazed at him with confusion and offense as he spoke of the Great War. The hatred her kind carried over the other races was strong enough to disobey even the harshest laws and punishments. Surely the Order would see no quarrel with humans killing Eve, so long as the demons of the woods didn't step foot across the border.
They want war. What are they after? To take over Lynn? To kill the High Priest?
The chances of Eve being here are non-existent. Laying siege to your lands like this is suicide. I imagined your leaders would find it convenient to attack innocent villages and blame my kind to escape responsibility.
You're right. Sorry I doubted you.
Near knew she hadn't set loose creatures of darkness in the woods, and it wasn't too offhanded for the Order to place blame on the Eve for their own wrongdoings. Near peered into the other room and saw Elizabeth stewing meat and vegetables. Near asked why Cloud trusted them so easily. Cloud responded and said that he didn't. Cloud turned away, and Near was left to contemplate. Caged by her thoughts, she stepped to the window and peered out into the woods. Dark, unsettling chill crept into her bones. She then realized that something much more sinister than the Ave or the Order had come to life, and she feared there might be no way of bringing it to an end.
Dun dun dun.
I really thought that you were gonna let forth a scream, HC.
I would have if my husband would have come running in here.
I was expecting. Ah!
Yeah, I don't think the mic would pick that up very well.
I don't know. My husband would have come in here like, "What's wrong?" And I would have been like, "Nothing." He would have gotten mad.
Just cosplaying my book.
Yeah, have really the
Just
blood-curdling screams for actual emergencies around here.
Well, I guess my first piece, and I know that we talked about this, I don't know if we were recording yet or not, but for our viewers out here, the whole greatest bard that ever did live, as I understand pre-recording, that it's all just a tomfoolery and that it's just kind of one of those things where something happened and then the tale has been exaggerated over and over again, and then Lork here is just perpetuating that cycle.
Yes. He basically, I think, and I didn't read the footnote, so I don't want to say too much because I don't know what's revealed. Pretty sure it tells you the history of the Nyx and how they were cursed and forced into Vleland because they were basically on a rampage and killing everybody. So it just kind of gives you that backstory. If that is not in this chapter, then it's in another footnote somewhere. I'm pretty sure it was this one.
Yeah, you're right. It's at the bottom.
Yeah, and Lorik is basically saying that it was actually because the leader of the Nyx was a bard, and he wanted to be the greatest bard in the world, and he wanted to set forth and have everybody fall in love with him, but the world wasn't ready for it. And Nira is even rolling her eyes because she's like, "You're full of crap." I know that is not what happened, but Lorik is Lorik, so we gotta love him.
Right. Yeah.
He writes good tales.
Tells pretty good stories most of the time, I think.
I think so. So I wanted to tell you guys, you know how last time I talked when we were on here, I said that the first edition had, 40,000 less words and 4 less chapters. This chapter did not exist in the first edition of my book at all. It went from, so whenever they were in the last chapter where they were in the cabin, most of that didn't exist either. They basically went into a cabin. They talked about their plan, looked at the map, and then just left. Nir never looked around. She never found the notebook. None of that ever happened. So all of that mystery, I guess, if you want to call it, of everybody thinking that the Child of Sky led the elves into the human world, that did not exist in the first edition of my book. And all of this, once they get into Lynn, it all happened in one chapter. So they're at the cabin. They go into Lynn, and then it goes right into the next chapter that we're about to go into with the big fight that happens. Like, it was very, very fast. So I
don't know. I thought these 2 chapters were very evenly paced, and I guess just the sense of mystery isn't the word I'm looking for, but suspense in this chapter I thought was pretty captivating, as far as the whole whisper thing and like the blood curdling scream, and how the scream, as you find out, isn't actually a scream, but some creature mimicking it, which is just very, very luring, right?
Yeah. So in the first edition, the whisper was still mentioned, but it was just a bear trap that they found that Lorik I took that out. I had Lorik actually injure himself on a bear trap, but then I took that out. They found a bear trap with orange blood on it, and Nir knows that whispers have orange blood. So she just kind of assumes that's what it is. But in the second edition, I actually put like the whisper, you don't see it, but you hear it and you know it's there and you see the effects of what it has done to that village.
It reminded me a lot of like a Wendigo. Are you guys familiar with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of the idea a little bit. But like if you listen to the audiobook, you're not going to get any of this chapter we just went over because it's not in it because the audiobook was in the first edition. So that's why I always tell people don't listen to the audiobook. Like, it's good, but you're missing so much that you're going to want. Just want to tell you that. Thought it was interesting.
Nice little tidbit. The other thing, and I don't know if this necessarily caught me off guard, but it really just kind of had me going like, what? Oh, that's not till later. Never mind. Ignore that. We'll talk about it in a little bit.
Okay.
But when Cloud is just honoring, the doe's sacrifice, I immediately went to that scene in Avatar where Jake Sully kills whatever it was, the creature, and I forget her name.
Neytiri.
Neytiri. Yes, thank you. I wanted to say Navi. That's the people. Started with an N. Yeah, Neytiri was just like, you acting like child. You a babe, or whatever she says. Yeah, baby. Yeah. So
the elves definitely took a lot of inspiration from Viking culture and from the Na'vi from Avatar. The forest is basically Pandora. When you get to book 3, that's basically what it is. The ground glows when you step on it. There's glowing plants everywhere and trees. It's really
Pretty.
Sounds,
Yeah.
sounds cool.
Anyway, that was just the first part, and that wasn't even what I wrote. But I think it's an interesting contrast. But I feel like it kind of shows her openness to new ideas and concepts, which I think some more than most could all learn from, especially Mr. Lurk there. But I don't know. It's one of those things where like I see her doing this, but at the same time, like I still think that Near is still maybe like struggling to accept some of these different perspectives, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that. And I mean, whenever you have a country that is ruled by a religious order, they're going to kind of have one set of beliefs and one like kind of a one-track mind in a way, because they are told what to believe. And if they don't believe it, then they're going to be persecuted for it. So, you know, if they don't believe animals have souls and they don't believe that killing animals is a bad thing, then they're just going to be completely desensitized to it.
Sure.
While, you know, Cloud and the elves have a huge connection to nature, so they're going to honor those sacrifices.
So here's my question, just me, again, probably overthinking, but Ryman, her adopted father, is Eve, right? So my question is like, yes, he's been accepted, but is that because he's indoctrinated, or not necessarily indoctrinated, but chose to give up like his avish ways so that he would be more accepted by human society? And why wouldn't he teach Near about his avish background?
Well, we learn more about Ryman as the series goes on. But he did move. I think it said already, and maybe it isn't. It's really not that big of a deal. But he moved to the human country 75 years ago. So he's been here for a really long time, because Near's only 24. So he's got like 50 years on her that he has been here, and he's been working to create the Brotherhood and all this stuff. So 75 years without living with the elves and with living with the humans, you're going to lose a lot of the things that you used to know, because you're going to be with the humans. So you're going to kind of just live with them. And yeah, I mean, Ryman is accepted in Lynn by the Brotherhood. Not everyone in Lynn, their country or whatever you want to call it, not every one of them is with the Brotherhood. Like Rose is not with the Brotherhood. So they still kind of like don't really accept him outside of the Brotherhood. And a lot of people in the Brotherhood are still kind of weary of him. So he does kind of have to, you know, he calls the Eve elves. He doesn't call them Eve because he's got to, you know, save face, I guess, if you want to call it that, with the humans and kind of conform a little bit to what they do. So it's kind of both. You know, he's kind of lost all that and he's living with humans. He's got to act like a human.
So is he just like saying the word elf, even though it's like a racial slur, to try to take power away from the humans and saying it?
I mean, that's not really explored much.
I thought you said earlier that it was a slur.
Elf is kind of a slur. Like the word is Eve. But if he was to go around calling the elves Eve, nobody would trust him because they would think he's a sympathizer. They would think he is still with the elves. So if he wants to gain trust with the humans, he's got to have to kind of give a little bit and show them, hey, I'm not with the humans. I'm using these derogatory terms and I'm fighting with you. I'm not with them. Because, I mean, for all the humans know, he could still be with the elves and he could be infiltrating them or something. So he's got to let them know that he's not, I guess, if that even makes sense.
So I just keep having questions. So is the founding of the Brotherhood, is what I was understanding was kind of like in direct opposition of, you know, the Order of Sorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is it my understanding that both groups don't trust the Eve?
Yeah, humans don't trust Eve. So even though that there is Ryman, who's an elf, leading the Brotherhood, that does not mean that the humans trust the elves. That means that there is an elf and he has proved himself and he's shown us that he can he has what it takes to lead us to victory. So we're going to trust him because he's proven himself. But wild elves is what they call them. Like Cloud is a wild elf. They're not going to trust him. And that, I think that gets explained a little bit better, maybe in the next chapter once they actually start getting closer to villages and stuff. Because Lorik gets concerned about them traveling with Cloud. And he's like, I know that Ryman is an elf, but he's a wild elf. Like, people aren't going to accept him. And Nier says if he stays close to us because we're with the Brotherhood, they'll accept him because the Brotherhood is supposed to accept everybody.
So is Ryman, is this all just a facade, or does he actually still sympathize with his race?
You just have to read and find out.
Okay.
Whenever you meet Ryman, you can form your own opinions and all that. Because, I mean, you'll meet him. You don't meet him in this book, but you do meet him, and he becomes a really important character. So I don't want to give away too much about who he is and what he's doing and why. I just would rather you experience it. Everybody loves Ryman, though. I will tell you that. Readers love Ryman.
It just seems really jarring, and I'm not sure where all that is going. Like, it seems like Ryman is perpetuating bigotry and then teaching that to Nier, right? Even though like he's an Eve himself, and I just feel like that's counterintuitive.
In a way. I mean, you mean how he's telling her, not teaching him his Avish roots and not teaching her to say Eve instead of elf and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, along those lines, yeah. And even just like a lot of the doubts we have, or that we're seeing with Nier and Cloud, right? Like, she's familiar, she's open to, different perspectives, but at the same time, she's doubting whether or not to trust him based on the fact that he's an Eve.
Yeah, well, I mean, she kind of has reason to do that, whether she had an elf as a dad or not, because the elves are the enemy. So Cloud is a stranger and he is an elf, and elves are attacking. So it would kind of make sense for her to be like, are you with these people? Like, why are you here? Why are you being so nice to me? You know what I mean? Like, that would kind of make sense regardless for her to question whether, no matter what his race was.
Sure. I don't know. I guess just, with what you explained with the whole Great War and them being kicked out of their land, very kind of Native American vibes. And the fact that, like, we're sitting on stolen land. So, like, I don't know. Is that your intent? Is to, like, have sympathy for the Eve in the fact that they were kicked from their land and forced to be hidden in these woods?
Well, that's what Cloud says happened. That might not be what happens.
Gotcha.
Because as we learn further, we'll learn what the humans think of the Great War. So you kind of have to come up with your own conclusion as to what you think actually happened. Because, the elves say one thing and the humans say another. Because I thought in this chapter maybe, but maybe not. Nier's like, that is not what happened in the Great War. The humans did not kick you out.
Maybe that was in like the little footnote at the bottom of that page.
Maybe.
I know that was about like their Great War itself,
Yeah. Well, I mean, humans think one thing and then the elves think the other. So that's my intention. Just whatever information you're getting is what you can think, and you can form your own theories about it. Everything is going to be explained in time.
Gotcha.
Justin's just being impatient.
Some things will not be explained. I like leaving things very open-ended, so you will get no answers throughout the whole story. That's how it is. Be ready.
Okay. All right. Well, sorry for the tangent there.
It's okay. I feel like I didn't even answer any of your questions. I felt like I was rambling the whole time.
No, it's fine. It's just, I'm in an interracial relationship. So, a lot of today's societal conundrums, so to speak, and current events, a lot of this just really resonated with me as far as some of the things that are happening currently. So it was just one of those things where I didn't know like where that is going.
We find out.
Definitely some deep questions, though, Justin.
Huh?
Yeah.
So you definitely had some deep questions, though.
Yeah. They're definitely deep. But again, that's just a product of me overthinking. But
No, I mean, I like that. I like whenever people can kind of, when readers come up with their own theories and their own questions, and they kind of, like, even right now, you're like, this rhyming guy, this ain't making no sense, and you don't even know him, but you just, you start forming all these opinions and stuff just based on your own experiences and based on what you've learned from Nier's experience. And that's kind of the idea that I had, was I want you to experience it in a way that resonates with you. That's why I kind of leave things open-ended a little bit. I don't ever have Nier's thoughts laid out like in italics, and I don't ever really, or try not to tell the reader how to feel. I kind of want the scene itself and the tone to just evoke emotion in you like it would with Nier. And sometimes, you may not feel that, and sometimes you will. It just depends on your experiences, I guess.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Got it.
Let's move on.
All right. Oh, I just wrote Cloud's faith doesn't seem too bad. Why can't the order lighten up a bit? So.
Oh yeah. I mean, does Cloud really have faith in anything?
I mean, just like that, that spirituality, I guess.
Yeah. Just that deep connection. And you get a lot of that in book 3. Oh my God, y'all, I'm so excited for book 3. Just skip the rest of this book. Just skip book 2. Just go right into book 3. It's so good. It's so good.
Didn't you say book 2 was really good also?
I mean, I'm self-conscious about book 2, but not everybody, but mostly everybody says it's better than book 1. But I'm self-conscious about it. It's my least favorite in the series. But that's, for one, it's because it was really, really hard for me to write, and I don't like desert settings. So, like, it's kind of like a personal thing. I just don't really like that. I do like book 2, but I like elves and the forest and stuff like that. And I like all this banter going on. I'm selling y'all to not. Just don't read book 2, just read book 3. It's just good.
All right.
Don't really skip it. It's good. Book 2 is good. Grimdark Magazine read it. He told me he had a 2-month wait for his book, so he wasn't going to be able to get to my book for 2 months. And he read it 2 weeks after he got it. And he was like, it's so good. He was like, this is very, very good. Cool, because I was nervous. I'm very self-conscious about that book. I feel like it's too fast. I feel like it's too much. So that was good. Anyway.
No worries. I thought it was really interesting. It doesn't seem that Nier learned her lesson after she goes chasing the Scream the first time. And then she feels bad about potentially putting them in a potentially dangerous situation. And then it happens again. And then she's just like, just off she goes. Like, you know what? I'm not a fool. I've got magic. I'll be all right. I'll be able to get him out. Like, cool. You got some balls, girl. But at the same time, yeah, it felt weird. I'm like, wait, what? She's running after it again?
Nier is extremely impulsive. And that's why whenever Gil left, he told her to think before she acts, because she's very, very impulsive, and she acts very much she just reacts a lot of the time. So when she hears somebody screaming, even though she knows it's probably going to be a trap, she can't risk someone being in trouble just to potentially save herself. She would rather put herself in danger. So she doesn't even think. She just reacts, and she's kind of annoying.
No, I mean, I don't think it's annoying. I think that impulsive is the word I couldn't come up with at that moment. But yeah, and thus the reason why Lork repeats many times throughout these chapters, like, use your head, buddy.
You're gonna get me killed if you don't stop it, because I can't protect myself. Come on, girl.
Right, because I'm shitting my pants at these screams. Right.
Yeah. He's really like whimpering and like quivering, and she's just leaving him behind. She's like, oh wait, it could be a trap. Off she goes.
Right. God damn it, now I gotta chase her again.
Yeah, and then like she's even like, is Cloud in with this? Is he doing something? And then she leaves Lorik behind with him. Near. She's annoying. But I love her.
She definitely seems like a shoot first, ask questions later type of girl.
Oh my god, she is so that type. Nier is very impulsive. You'll learn. I mean, you've already learned, but she is. It's just how she is. It's purposeful that she's that way in the books, obviously. But
fair enough. The other thing that I thought was confusing, but conceptually really cool, is just the woman crying. It wasn't actually the woman crying, but the whimpered cry of the doe that Cloud had killed, even though it was in a bloody sack of its own body. I wasn't expecting that, and I had to like double take in the book when I was reading it. And is it maybe me interpreting that the doe's soul, because they were talking about, Cloud and his spirituality, and that when it's said that when you kill an animal humanely, that may or may not be right, its soul is released into the wind, and even after that, a slight breeze kind of picked up. So is this insinuating that potentially the doe's soul got forced into becoming a creature of the dark? Or is it something that I'm not connecting here?
No,
Can I try and answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
Or I had a thought anyways. I guess I thought it just kind of mimicked sounds is what I thought.
Yes.
I guess to slim it down. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. But you're right. So I like what you picked up, Justin, because that was really you paid attention a lot more than I did, because I did not mean to write it like that. But
That's your nice way of saying it wrong. It's cool. It's cool.
But so Cloud doesn't say their souls get released. He says their energy gets released.
That's what I meant. Yes.
Energy. Yeah. So it's not like, and he might, I never say he does or doesn't, but from what he says, it's just their energy, because everything everywhere has energy. It can't be created or destroyed. So whenever you die, your energy is released. And we do learn more about creatures of darkness later on. I don't think we've really learned too much about what they are, how they form, where they come from. You do learn a little bit more about them later. But the whisper is called a whisper because it mimics the sounds that it hears. And it will mimic, like, the woman saying her Mirabella, she hears her screams every night. It's because the whisper killed her, and it mimics her voice now to lure other people towards it, like it was doing with Mir. But it was using the doe's voice, I guess, at the same time, or there may have been more than one. But that's why it's called whisper.
Well, right, because I'm assuming that it maybe potentially observed Cloud approach the doe and kill it, right? So it may not necessarily be a malicious intent of like a child screaming, which is fucking brutal. But, animals in help, or, even animal noises for luring potential hunters, like sky's the limit as far as the versatility goes.
Well, Mirabella was not a child. It says a woman was screaming.
Sorry,
she was an adult.
For some reason, Mirabella just makes me think like 8-year-old girl. So, like,
well, 8-year-old girls do grow up, even if they're named Mirabella. They turn into women.
I thought it was a kid too, Justin. So
I'm pretty sure I say it was a woman screaming.
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I don't. Maybe she just heard a wail or something. But no, Mirabella, she's like a teenager or young adult. She wasn't like a child.
What 2 grown-ass adult women have you ever known to stick around and stay with their mother?
Well, whenever you're living in medieval times, probably a lot. In the middle of nowhere.
Oh, I'd get the fuck out.
Oh, yeah. But also, you're a woman living in medieval times. You're not just going to go wandering around. You're going to kind of wait for somebody to come get you and take you to their house. That's kind of how it worked back then. Women can't just roam around.
That's fair.
And they lived in a village. So they may not have lived with her.
I guess maybe that's where my assumption came from, is that it was like, maybe like a teenager or something, is because Elizabeth is mom. So I just assumed young woman, teenager, something like that. I wasn't thinking an adult anyways, but.
Yeah, something like a young adult, like 20, like anywhere from 15 to 20 is kind of how old I had envisioned her in my head.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I feel like reading this other series, we're not strangers to children in danger. So
that's funny.
Yeah.
No, well, she wasn't a child in my head. I don't want to torture that many children in my books. So just making it clear, she's not a child. I mean, 15 is a child, but she's not like a little child.
Right. Anyway, so kind of going back to like the energy thing, it can't either be created or destroyed, but when you described as vicious, twisted creatures full of dark energy, that is kind of where I'm like, oh, are there more than one type of energy, right? Like positive energy, dark energy and negative energy, right? So I'm wondering if this is maybe a Rafa moment potentially, or if there is some perspective you can offer us as far as how is one's death, how or what is deciding whether that's a dark or a positive energy or any other energy that doesn't create a creature of darkness.
That is all explained in book 3 by now.
God damn it.
You learn a little bit more about the creatures of darkness in book 1. You learn more about the balance of energy and what makes it light, what makes it dark, how like things are formed and shaped and all that stuff in book 2.
Okay. I look forward to that then. I will.
That is actually Ayla's journey, is keeping balance of the energy. So she is a secondary main character introduced in book 2.
Alrighty then. Striking out. All right.
I'm giving you tons of answers.
So at the very end, when Nira's kind of feeling guilty about kind of what she is saying, I'm assuming kind of a Ryman situation where she's just saying what she has to say to keep from exposing herself, etc., etc. But I guess in my mind, I'm like, what exactly is it that Lisbeth is providing that they need that they can't get themselves? To me, they're in an abandoned village. In my mind, in my canon, this is the only home that is still occupied. So why is it that they couldn't just occupy themselves in a different home, start their own fire, cook their own meal? And then I'm assuming they all know how to stay quiet, except for maybe Lork, to avoid the Wispers from finding them.
Safety in numbers.
That was one reason. But I thought it was explained. I thought Nier did, because I think Cloud said we can stay in one of the empty homes. And I thought Nier said no, unless I took that out. I thought that was a conversation that they had.
I mean, you're not wrong. I can't remember what the reason was. I just feel like them choosing to be independent from Lisbeth would have been more fruitful. And even though Cloud couldn't hear the discriminatory talk towards him, I feel like it would have avoided Nier being put in that situation where she had to like keep this facade. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that they were going to stay in one of the houses, but then the woman came outside and she's like, leave. So if they would have just taken up camp in one of the houses of her dead friends or her dead family members, I don't think she would have taken too kindly to that. And then Lorik the woman, Rose, came down and she's like, oh, let him stay. I love Eber de Vries. So they just kind of were brought into the house. And so instead of being like, no, we don't want to stay with you, even though you have warmth and shelter and food and clothes, Oh,
the reason is because Lisbeth didn't want them sneaking around.
Yeah, she was telling them to leave and to get out. She especially didn't want an elf after everything that had happened and after she, her whole village was attacked and she was still blaming Nier, the child, on the elves coming. Like she wouldn't just let an elf with 2 humans just wander around. So it just kind of happened that they stayed with them. And yeah, it's like he said, it's just safety in numbers mostly. It's better to be with them and by yourself, especially when you don't know what's going on.
Fair enough. There was also a part, and I did a terrible job summarizing because again, I was writing this very hurried, where Elizabeth was talking about the peace was promised by the Brotherhood from the Eve, and then something to do with like the Order broke that or something like that. So is this one of those things where Elizabeth more or less like doesn't necessarily agree? No, because they have the pendants. Never mind.
They're devout. Yeah. They live in Lynn. But basically what she was saying, if I can remember, because I didn't read the chapter again, but if I can remember correctly, she's saying that the Brotherhood offered us protection from the Order and protection from the elves. So like if the elves, they live right on the border. So, if the elves tried to come into their land, the Brotherhood promised to protect them
from that happening if there were invaders. And the Brotherhood also promised to protect them from the Order, because just because you're devout doesn't mean you're going to follow the Order. You just want to follow the divines. So they're not members of the Brotherhood, but they're not with the Order either. So she's kind of saying everybody sort of betrayed them because her whole family just got slaughtered, and the child is loose and elves are everywhere. And there's creatures of darkness running around and everybody's dead. So
Sure.
she just kind of feels betrayed.
And correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm probably wrong because this, I think, happened in like the first few chapters where they're talking about the divines and the Brotherhood. But doesn't the Brotherhood kind of denounce the divines?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's one
You
of the
didn't get
tenets.
corrected.
Hmm?
You didn't get corrected.
Eh. I should mark that one down.
The first time for everything.
Yeah.
Let me see. One of the tenets, because if you look at the tenets of the Brotherhood and the Order, they are the exact same, but like just opposite. So the Brotherhood created their tenets, or tenet, I don't know how to say the words, tenets, basically after the Order of Sorrows. So like the Circle of Six must be praised above all else, but the Brotherhood says abandon all faith in the Circle of Six. So yeah, they don't follow any religion, they don't follow any religious order. But Nier has also said that just because you're in the Brotherhood and you take that vow, a lot of people still do believe in the divines, and they just believe in secret because the Brotherhood doesn't really allow open belief, I guess.
Gotcha. Okay. Fair enough. I just thought it was weird that like, and it threw me for a loop, and I didn't know how to like articulate my thoughts until we started talking about all this. But if Lisbeth is devout to the Six, not necessarily the Order of Sorrow, but then the Brotherhood denounces the Six, it's kind of a peculiar spot to be in.
Well, I mean, the Brotherhood they're not tyrants. They're not like the Order of Sorrow. So to be a member of the Brotherhood, you would need to denounce all of your beliefs, because they don't want anything to do with the Order of Sorrow. They don't want anything to do with any of that. So if you want to be a member, then you'll have to take that vow. But not everybody that lives in Lynn is a member of the Brotherhood.
Fair.
So, and I mean, everybody has their own beliefs. Like a lot of fiction, everybody has the same belief if they live in the same area, and that's not the case. So just because she's in Lynn doesn't mean she's not going to believe in the Order or follow the divines.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah. No. Good. I like it. Answers.
Hey.
Yep.
Keep them coming. Let's go.
I think I'm out. I'm.
I think Dren's falling asleep down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What you got to say in all this, sir?
Yeah, who you talking to down there? I hear the boop boop.
What?
Uh-huh.
Messaging on your phone.
I see him looking around trying to mute it.
Oh.
Is it you? Justin? Oh.
No.
Freaking Draconis.
I'm busy forging my sword.
Sounds like something you should do when we're not on a three-way video call.
Right.
No.
Ew.
But yeah, anyway, I'm done having the floor. Derek, it's your turn. You can talk about something.
I don't have anything to add to yours. We can just start into chapter 14 here if you guys are ready.
Yeah, how to find it? Where'd it go?
It's right after the end of Justin's typing on chapter 13. All right. Chapter 14, Sword of the Eve. We do not seek war, but they leave us no choice. They've condemned us, slaughtered us, and left our corpses in their wake. For that, we will show no mercy. Sayings of the Eve, Clan Claytill. The woods were covered in dew and fog, while sunlight poked through the trees. Nier stepped outside Lisbeth's home, with Cloud close behind, as Lori said goodbye to Rose and her mother. The two women bowed with their hands cupped in front of their chests, while Lorik did the same in return. The gesture was used in prayer, thanks, greetings, and farewells among those who were extremely devout, and also rarely seen in Lynn. Lorik gave them one last smile and turned to follow Nier and Cloud toward the high road. Nier was tired, as out of respect for Elizabeth and her late daughter, the friends decided not to sleep in Mirabella's bed, even though the offer was there. It was not the fact that they slept on the floor that caused a sleepless night, but the screams of the Whisper imitating a woman in danger. And I spelled whisper incorrectly. Correctly.
Oh, by the way, I'm going to interrupt y'all because I 100% say a woman screamed. And even right now it says imitating a woman in danger. Woman. That's not my fault. Your fault. thinking she's a child.
Well, I don't think we were arguing that fact. It was just our headcanons.
I'm just saying. I said woman. I knew I did. But go on. I just had to be right.
You good, Neary?
Never better. You?
She knew that Lorik knew her well enough to know she was lying. When he answered her question with the same never better lie, she gave him a grin and wrapped her arm around his.
Law, do you think we can trust him?
Them elves are tricky bastards, Near. Always starting trouble.
So says the order.
A whole nation wouldn't believe the rumors unless there was some truth to it.
The whole nation believes the rumors about me.
Lorik tried to speak and quickly shut his mouth. The rumors of her existence were spread far and wide across the land, and she wouldn't be surprised if the elves thought her a demon. Since she was born with magic, she was labeled a child of Nizot, the deceitful god who craved power and dominance and wondering to rule them all. It was a part of the teachings to denounce all forms of magic and purge anyone born with the ability. Though human sorcerers were considered the worst, they were the ingrates born of Nizolt or Nizotl, I don't remember.
It's Nizolt. I spelled that one wrong too.
I know, and it's weird when you know what you mean to say, but then you're reading how it's written.
Yeah.
It messes with your brain.
I didn't think it looked good with the LT, so I put the TL because it looked cooler. But I just pronounced it wrong.
Nizolt.
Nizolt.
Born of Nizolt himself to lure humankind into extinction. Every child was tested by blood sampling, and when Nears came back positive, she was immediately sentenced to die. Her parents had other ideas and fought back against the order and were forced into hiding. Shaking her from her thoughts, Lorik spoke up. Where do you expect we are? She looked around, studying her surroundings. Much of Lynn looked the same, and it would be difficult to narrow down exactly where they were without a signpost. She took an educated guess.
Close to Valdi, according to the map. We can stop there along the way. I hear they have the best ale in all of Lynn, so that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, just getting there with him is the problem.
Should be all right. Ryman's never had an issue with racism.
That's because Ryman's the leader of the Brotherhood. He's proved himself 10 times over. These wild pale faces are not welcome in our land.
So long as he stays close to us and keeps his head down, he should be all right.
I don't know, Near. Our kinds don't mix well. I just hope no one gives us any trouble.
Please. Angry villages are the least of our worries.
The group came to a dead stop as they heard a terrible scream come from the west. Near drew her sword and looked through the trees. Do you think?
No. Whispers are creatures of darkness. They can't survive in the sunlight.
What about them dogs in Spindra and Vleland? They were out in daytime.
The sun was hidden behind the clouds. I suppose it was enough for them to survive.
They heard more screams from the west and Near raced towards them, leaving her companions behind. Lorik called out to her as he fell behind. The trees thinned out as she came to the village of Smedland. Smedland?
Smeddelund.
Smedland?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, can't win them all.
I have some really weird words in these chapters.
Her heart was beating so fast she thought she might teleport rather than run to the smell of smoke and burnt and burning flesh. Villagers ran through the streets, screaming, tripping over bodies of their fallen loved ones. Horses and villagers both were desperate to escape. Near came to a stop as she saw the symbol of the order painted in blood on the side of a burning building. She froze, unable to breathe as she thought about the destruction of her own village. She was lost in thought as everything took her memory back to that time, playing out again in front of her eyes. Her nightmare vanished as a woman with a soot-covered face and a singed dress ran for the tree line. She was fleeing men and women chasing her, unlike any Near had seen before. Blood-painted faces and armor made from bones and hide with tribal markings on their arms, chests, and faces. The fleeing woman was cut down, the attackers licking their victims' blood from their lips. Near was overcome with rage and ran right for them with her sword drawn. Another fighter tried to block her path, and she ran her sword right through him. He stumbled back and still tried to strike her with his dagger. She cut his wrist off, blood spraying everywhere. The man fell to his knees with a scream that his comrades heard. They snarled and turned to charge her. She looked to the man at her feet who held onto his severed wrist. In a completely badass and savage move, she cut his fucking head off. Cut his fucking head off! Looking into his eyes, looking up at her from her feet, she felt disgust, but it faded once she reminded herself he was with the others. He killed innocent people, and she would not let this get in her way. She turned her attention back to the others as they came closer. The first man with a large scar across his face came closer, his speed quickening as he let out a war cry and lunged for her throat with his sword. Nier spun to dodge the attack, but her ear was sliced by her opponent. She came to his side and drove her weapon to his chest, though he managed to get his sword up in time to block. They pressed against each other, fighting for the upper hand. The man smiled as she struggled with his strength. Nier was able to create some separation as she pushed him back and leapt to the side. As she spun, she saw a spear coming her direction. She prepared to dodge it, but it suddenly disappeared. The man who threw it was several houses down with a shocked look on his face. Nier gripped her sword tighter, examining her enemies as she planned her attack. The man she pushed back charged her again. He suddenly stopped. A spear protruded from his chest. The spear was ripped from his chest, and he collapsed into a puddle of blood. Cloud was holding the blood-soaked spear. Footsteps fell from behind him as a woman came near. Cloud turned and threw his spear, plunging it through her chest. The woman appeared back in Cloud's hands. Another two men came from behind Cloud with their swords raised to attack. He turned and twisted the spear to block. Nier's attention was taken to another man racing towards her. She ducked his attempt and poked for his middle. He swiped her blade aside and struck for her neck. She leapt aside. He followed her movements and drew his sword across her arm. Nier cried out, blood spilling from the wound, though she held her sword with a shaky grip. In all her years of fighting, she had never come across anyone who moved like water, flowing and dancing without breaking their stride. It was as if they could predict her movements. The man lunged at her, slashing deep into her shoulder. Screaming, she dropped her sword, the strike cutting her to the bone, and blood flowed. With a nasty smile standing before her, the man spoke a harsh language Nier didn't understand. His sword was at her throat. The blade drew a thin red line of blood. The man leaned in closer, pulling her cheek, widening her eye to reveal its color. She could see the shock on his face as he placed more pressure on her neck. Zolt vek Drimil, more Nurian Alfar. Nier didn't think about the danger of using her magic. She disappeared. The stranger's eyes darted back and forth, searching for her. A rift tore into the air as Nier rolled across the ground a few yards away. The magic had collapsed in on itself, and Nier was motionless on the ground as blood collected around her. He thundered towards Nier with a growl, preparing to deliver the killing stroke, when Cloud appeared and drove his spear towards the man's chest. The man was quick enough to block the attack. He stepped back, Cloud vanished and appeared behind him. The man turned to evade, and Cloud followed him, driving the spear into his belly. Nier fought to remain conscious as she lost more blood. She struggled to stand, limbs numb. She stumbled her way into a nearby building. Cloud fought on, taking on a man and woman. He disappeared as they both swung at the same time. The woman ducked as he reappeared behind her and slashed his spear. She struck upwards and cut into his arm. He teleported away and leaned against a post, breathing heavy. He straightened as the woman charged him. Nier could see that he was exhausted and he had depleted himself. He raised his spear to defend himself. Nier managed the strength to throw her dagger at the woman, sinking it into the woman's back. She fell before Cloud, and just for good measure, he stabbed her in the back with the spear. The remaining man charged him. Cloud lifted his spear to block his attack, but his attack knocked the spear from Cloud's hands. Cloud fell back, reaching for his spear that he could not draw to himself. The man managed to pierce Cloud's side. Grunting, Cloud kicked him back, and fell to the ground with a yelp. Nier tightened her grip on her sword, her injuries burning through her body, every heartbeat throbbing in her arms. The man pushed Cloud into the dirt with his foot. Cloud had no energy to fight back. With a kick, he turned Cloud onto his back. grabbing him by the collar and drawing him up. His fist connected with Cloud's face 3 times, and he dropped him back to the dirt. As Cloud lay there bleeding, he tossed his sword aside in favor of a dagger. He spoke some forward message before driving his dagger towards Cloud's chest. A moment before it would have entered his body, the dagger disappeared and he punched him in the chest instead. He turned to look to see where his weapon had gone. He found Nier standing behind him as she drove the dagger into his spine. She left the weapon sticking out of his back as he lay on the ground, unable to move. Her mind still a haze, she stood over him.
Who are you? Tell me.
The man struggled to breathe, and Cloud ended his suffering, putting a spear point through his throat. Nier released a deep breath, holding her bleeding arm. Lorik came out of his hiding spot with a yellow vial. This'll take the edge off till we can get you patched up. Without hesitation, she drank the potion, and the pain subsided. She lost whatever strength she had left, and Lorik pulled her to himself. He helped her to a nearby cart and then gave Cloud a potion as well. Nier closed her eyes, and Lorik inspected her arm. He used his shirt to create a tourniquet. This might hurt a bit. You're lucky he didn't take off your arm. What were you thinking, Nier? Going after fighters like that? And using your magic?
Couldn't let him get away with this.
Yeah? You really showed him. We need to find help fast, before an infection spreads.
My magic will help heal it.
Right, sure. Who are they? Do you know their language? Cloud looked at the dead men at his feet that Lorik pointed at. He spoke in Elvish, and he had to ask Nier to translate.
The warriors with someone called the Nicaea.
The who? Nier continued to translate.
He's the man that cursed Azael.
Nier's jaw dropped as she slumped back down in disbelief. She looked at the men again, noticing their distinct and foreign features. How could she not have seen it before? Their fighting style, their ruthlessness, all exactly as described by the Order. Nier, what's happening?
These people they attacked the villages in Vleland, but they aren't with the Order. The elves. Dun dun
That was the end
dun.
of chapter 14.
I made a lot of mistakes in that chapter, it seems. Sorry.
No, like I said, I just read things differently. That's all.
That's one of the
I don't know.
things that... Oh, sorry.
I don't know if Justin felt the same way.
I mean,
Justin didn't read the chapter, did you?
no, I read the chapter. I just, no, to me, it was just it was a beat 'em up chapter. You know, it was, in my opinion, pretty straightforward. So I don't know if these like minor details are really, I didn't have any call outs, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I didn't
mean-
have a ton of things either, just because, like you said, I mean, it was just kind of a battle again. But I did have a few things. And I'm sorry, HC, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. I was just saying, reading back through, obviously, it's like we talked about before, whenever you do something for the first time, like you publish your first book, and now I'm on the 4th book that I've published, and you notice all the things you wish that you could change. And one of the things that I wish that I would have done differently is not put so much action. Like, I don't want to reduce it. I just wish I would have added more, like maybe with them sitting with Rose and Lisbeth, or them walking through or finding something else, and then not going from one action to the next action to the next action, because something happens in every chapter. And I wish I would have slowed down a little bit to explain some of these things that you guys have had questions about. But I mean, at least, you know, I see that now, so I have kind of grown a bit. But those are just things that I've noticed that you guys point out that I definitely agree with, that, you know, I should have maybe explained things just a little bit better there. But
And I mean, it doesn't need to be, you know, like, I don't think like Derek and I are asking, you know, in some type of unconscious or subtle way, like info dumps by any means, but just like continuing along the way that you write and creatively finding ways to introduce this information that just doesn't feel like a blatant handhold. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, that's what I like about book 3 is I really found that balance, because you guys know me, I don't like info dumps at all. I like for you to just experience it as you would naturally experience it, without just
having a big paragraph to tell you everything. So now that I've written book 3 and I kind of know what to do, now I'm going back to book 1 and I'm like, dang, I should have done that so differently.
So, are you saying that we are influencing your writing?
No. But you are giving me really good theories, and those are giving me really good ideas. So, I mean, yeah, you kind of are.
Okay, well, I'll take it.
For sure. My first thought here, I don't know, it just kind of tickles me a little bit that you say they're going to purge anybody born with magic instead of just like, we're just going to fucking kill them. I don't know why. I just like that better.
Yeah, in the order's tenets, it is those born of magical energy must be purged. Because I was like, I need to find something that's a little better than saying must be eradicated or killed or massacred. So let me say something that sounds nicer. So they call it purging when they want to do mass killings of people.
My next point, I feel like by the end of the book, I feel like Lorik will have a change of heart, and he'll, whether it's actions of Cloud or somebody else, he's gonna I guess kind of revert on some of his views on the elves. So I guess it's not really a question, just kind of an observation that we'll obviously have to read and find out on, but I feel like that's coming.
I would hope so. I mean, if he's either going to wind up liking the elves or the elves are going to wind up doing something that proves Lorik right. So I guess you'll just have to read them.
True.
Can go either way. But yeah, this is what we were talking about earlier, how they don't really trust Cloud 100% because he is the enemy, and they've always been taught that elves are bad. And Nier is like, well, I'm going to take people based on their actions, not based on the whole group of people, because just because the group is bad doesn't mean every individual is bad. But she's still kind of weary of him because the rumors might be true. He might not be able to be trusted. So it kind of shows their differences, and he said that he's wild and Ryman isn't wild and stuff like that.
Right. Your description here of how Nier's thinking about these fighters, they moved like water, flowing, dancing, without a break in their stride. I really liked that, the way you used that to describe it. Just like when I read that, I'm like, oh, damn, like that was really good. I liked that a lot.
I can't take credit for that. I got it for Game of Thrones.
Hey, take the compliment here. I'm throwing it at you.
I don't want to take credit for something I didn't make up. Like, yay, thank you. I stole it. Have you ever seen Game of Thrones? Don't tell me you've never seen it. I mean, don't watch it if you've never seen it.
Yeah, I've read the books.
Well, I've seen the show. I haven't read the books. And Arya's water dancing teacher is he's a swordsman teacher.
Serial
Yes.
Pharrell.
So he's a water dancing teacher. So that's kind of what I got that from, because I really liked that comparison of moving and flowing like water around your enemies. That's kind of how the elves fight. So I definitely stole that from Game of Thrones.
Hey, well, inspiration comes many places, right?
And then I get complimented on it.
There you go. So when Nier gets her arm nearly hacked off, and then she throws the dagger to kill the other lady, I assume she's throwing with not her sword hand, or is she somehow flapping that thing around?
I don't know. She got 2 arms. Either she's got 2 arms and she uses her good arm, or she's just really tough and she just does what she has to do. Adrenaline can make you do some crazy things.
Yeah, that's fair. I was just like, God, like you nearly got 1 arm cut off, and then, I mean, that's probably your dominant hand, and then you're going to throw a dagger, which I assume is probably not an easy thing to do with your dominant hand. And then you killed somebody with it. So,
I mean, did it say her arm was almost cut off? Was it that bad?
I don't know. I mean, I assume if you get cut down to the bone, that's and you're bleeding everywhere, it's pretty serious, right?
Yeah, I suppose. See, y'all, I don't know if you believe me, but I absolutely hate fight scenes. I hate them. I hate action and fight scenes. I hate them. And I hate injuries because I never know like what's actually like a really bad injury and how bad it would be and how long it would take to heal. I hate that stuff. So I don't know. She got hit in the shoulder. That's all I know. It shows I guess
that's kind of, I mean, you leave it to the reader. So, I mean, Justin maybe didn't think, he might not have thought it was as bad as I took it, I guess. It would be a possibility. Everybody can take it a little bit differently.
I know, but say she got, like, sliced to the bone. That sounds pretty bad. But I mean, I'm touching my bone, so maybe they just like slipped.
Right. Yeah, that's the same thing. I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, it's not like, I'm some bodybuilder and have like 10 inches of neck sticking up before my shoulder blade.
Yeah, like you got 1 inch and you're hitting bone. So
Yeah, true. I think I didn't jot this down, but it made me think back to one of the earlier chapters where Lorik came out to where he smashed in the guy with the cauldron. I know, when the moment arises, he'll help Nier when she's in danger. And I'm like, well, she's getting her ass kicked. And then why isn't he helping her? And then I think, well, I mean, if Nier's struggling to fight these people off, they must be pretty good fighters. And Lorik's probably just going to get himself killed if he tries to help. But I just kept thinking, I'm like, here's your moment, Lorik. Like, take one out from behind again. Like, get that cauldron out and smash some heads. But he didn't do it.
So I don't know if it's mentioned yet, but the elves are extremely good fighters, and Lorik would not have stood a chance. I mean, Cloud, who has magic, was getting beaten up. So they're better than Cloud, and you would expect Cloud to be good. He's got freaking teleporting magic that he can just go all around and do crazy stuff, and they're still beating him. So they're pretty good fighters.
Right. Well, it was a lot of fun to read. It was a good chapter.
Yay. I'm glad. And now we know that in Vleland, where they met the white-haired elf and they saved him, and then they went past that burned village, those were actually elves, but they were leaving the sigil of the order burned and carved into everything. So, don't know what that's about. Because why? They don't live in the human country, so why would they even know what that symbol is or how important it is? Because they can't even speak the language. So why are they leaving that symbol?
Because it's been done to them.
Maybe.
Contractors. They're subcontractors. Go kill everybody, put this symbol on things.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Nasir is a newer concept to us, right? Okay.
I mean, yeah, he's not really mentioned a whole lot in this book. He's much more prominent in book 2, but he has been mentioned in the letter that Cloud had from Azael. She mentions the Nasir. And then, I think it's really mentioned a lot more now. So he's mentioned a lot because he has a lot to do with Cloud's story and Cloud's purpose. Because obviously Nasir cursed Azael and Cloud is trying to save her. So Nasir is more for Cloud's story and Nier is more for the Order of Sorrow and the High Priest. So we got two antagonists. Two antagonists are hard. Making this story, y'all, it's so complex. It's so hard because you got Cloud's story, just the whole series in general. You have Cloud and all of the stuff that he's doing, trying to save Azael, and then Nasir. So you got all the elves and all the stuff that they're doing. We don't know how that's all going to turn out. And then you have Nier and the humans and the Brotherhood and the Order, and then all of it weaves together, and everybody it all just comes together. And I have to I can't even explain it. It's so annoying. Just it's a lot. I don't know why I made it so complex.
Well, I mean, it kind of seems like, as far as the Great War, kind of seems like Great War 2 is coming up with things that are being incited, and Cloud, being an AV or an EVA is obvious. Well, not obviously, but it seems to be going against the grain because he doesn't feel like it's right. Whereas Nier, on the opposite side of the spectrum with humans, doesn't feel like what they are doing are right. So they both kind of seem to be the opposition to the two forces that are opposing each other.
Yeah. Nier and Cloud kind of seem more open-minded than the rest of their people are toward each other. Mm-hmm. They're willing to see the person and not, like I said, see the person and not the rumors of the group, if that makes sense.
Right. And it's not necessarily that the humans or the EVA are wrong. They're both wrong. They're both making giant mistakes, mm-hmm. But they're just so hell-bent on revenge because of, and does one have a point over the other? Well, I mean, as you said earlier, it just kind of seems like it's just societal rumors about what has happened. And I don't know if like it's intended to actually find out what happened between the two, or if it's left to be as you like to do, kind of for readers to make their own assumptions and like what started what.
To read and find out because I haven't decided if I want to actually tell you the truth of it. I don't even know. I mean, I obviously do know the truth of it. I don't know if I want the reader to know because I like whenever stories don't tell you everything because it leaves you wanting more always. So it makes the story to me way more interesting because you never get those answers and you're always wanting to like find them. Do you know what I'm saying? So like Skyrim, for example, I don't know if you guys ever played it, but they have snow elves that just vanished, kind of like the First Blood in my book. And you never find out what happened to them. You have no idea why they vanished. Nobody knows. And you're never told. But it's so interesting because I want to know what happened. So it makes me want to like explore their ruins. And it makes me want to, even though I know I'm not going to get answers, I'm still interested after all these years to know what happened because it's just a mystery that I'm never going to know. And if I knew it and I had all the answers, it kind of loses that magic and it kind of loses the intrigue, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
So like unimportant things like the start of the war, who's right, who's wrong, like that's not really something you need to know at the end of the series. Like that's not something that would really break your immersion and really ruin the story if you don't know how that happened. So I may or may not go into detail on that. We'll see.
I guess my question is like, are there points of views that are equitable on both sides? That doesn't necessarily make it seem or inferred that one is right or wrong. Like, are there
You learn more.
views as you go throughout the series that kind of like go back and forth into questioning?
Yeah, because the elves obviously were in the Elven Forest in book 3. So the elves believe one thing, and then humans and Nier and whoever, they all have always believed another thing, and they can never know the truth. Like she'll hear what they say, they'll hear what she says, but no one can never know the truth unless they go back in time or something, you know, like they can never know the truth. So yeah, it's never really, at least it's not my intention to push you to think the elves are right and what they're saying is right and the humans are wrong. Kind of how it is right now because we're kind of on cloud side at the time because, you know, but yeah, it's just open-ended. It's just whatever, you know, whoever's talking. In book 3, it says history is always told in favor of the victor. Like that's mentioned in book 3 because we're never going to know.
That's just kind of how it goes in any, you know, real life.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, they'll question it and they'll wonder who's right and what happened and what, you know, who to believe. But you just kind of have to come up with your own conclusions, just like you would in real life. Who do you believe? What really happened? It doesn't even matter because that was a long time ago. So who cares? Like, let's move forward. I think we're all fading.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think it's one of those.
It's late.
I think it's one of those phenomena where, like, yeah, moving forward and moving on, you know, works. But at the same time, I feel like that perpetuates. If you ignore history, you're doomed to repeat it. You know what I mean? So, like, it's one of those. There's this saying, but then there's this saying. So it kind of.
Well, yeah, but it's also the saying, like, you don't want to ignore history. You want to know, hey, our races fought. We are segregated. We hate each other. Let's not do that again. Let's come together so that we don't repeat that same cycle. Because right now they're literally repeating the exact same cycle. They're all about to go to war with each other. So
Exactly.
whether they ignore it or not.
So I think it's all just a process of discovery, you know.
Lots more to unfold as the story goes on. But I hope
Well,
y'all are
you got
enjoying it
another-
and having a good time. I know it's really super fast paced. Even if you don't like it, you gotta say you do.
It's faster paced than probably most books that I can remember right now anyways.
I hope that's not a bad thing.
No. I'm just trying to think back to like any other book that I've read, and I can't remember any this fast paced. That doesn't mean that there weren't some that were. That was history a long time ago, right?
Yeah. And I kind of made the mistake of writing this book and book 2 is more like TV shows where, you know, every episode you want
something exciting to happen. Well, every chapter I wanted something exciting to happen. It's not really how books work. Books are more like movies where everything just kind of flows and you really just kind of follow the passage of time and you don't have things skipping around between chapters like a TV show would. So that's kind of how I would write it then. Now I kind of try to make it more seamless and show those slower moments. But I mean, I'm glad y'all are enjoying it at least. It is fast paced because I can't get into slow books, obviously. So that's why I wrote a really fast one. Something's got to happen or I'll lose interest.
Makes sense to me.
I'm looking forward to continuing to read on again. So
Yay.
probably do that. Probably not going to do it tonight. I'm going to go to bed here. So
yeah, like I said, we're all fading.
Yeah.
We're getting old. It's not even 10 o'clock yet.
Justin Old Man River here, 37 years old now. So
Oh no.
I'm old as hell.
You're not old until you're 40. That's middle age.
I don't know. Half of 70 is 35.
I thought the average lifespan was 80.
For males, I think it's like 68
68. There's no way it's that young.
or 72 or something like that.
Yeah, it's like I know it's in the 70s at least.
So,
well, luckily we live in Minnesota. I think our average is a little higher because of where we live. So
Nice. I said average age of men. How about lifespan? Those are an average age. In the U.S., the average lifespan of men is 77 years old.
oh damn.
Women,
I got 40.
it also says it's 77. 79 for women.
Well, that's how it
Anyway,
is.
Cool. On that depressing note,
you're almost
From one
moving.
end to the other here in the spectrum of the opening and closing of things. So it fits.
yeah, for sure.
This is what happens
All right,
when you
guys.
record at 7 o'clock at night.
You took a nap. So you're
Yeah.
nice and energized.
Ugh, I ain't. I want to go back to sleep. I only slept for like 20 minutes.
Oh. That's all you need. 20-minute cat nap.
Yeah, and then I woke up and I was like, "Are we meeting?" I was like, "I'm waiting on them,"
Eh,
and then I was 5 minutes late because y'all waiting on me. Oops.
it's all good. Well, HC, as always, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This was fun as always.
Absolutely. Sorry for the more serious conversations this time instead of the rambunctiousness.
I like all the questions.
Good.
I like pointing out all my flaws.
I wouldn't call them flaws. I would call them educational opportunities.
There you go. Is that what your teacher taught you in 4th grade?
No, actually, this is something I learned in art school.
Oh, I know your teacher told you that. It's definitely a teacher thing.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
It's just for whatever reason has stuck with me. Like, you can't make yourself better without the critique of your peers, especially if you're taking yourself seriously, then like you will take critique seriously. Not that like you need to take every critique seriously, because you can definitely tell some of the really fucking dumb ones. Like, and that you're just like, okay, thanks, bruh. But
yeah, you can tell it's just like a personal
I'm
thing.
moving on. Like, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one.
They all stink.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So,
Ending on a weird note again.
yep. All right. See y'all later. Have a good night.
All right. Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest.